cameras won't be recording. Thank you.
Can I see my Huh? Okay, thank you. Okay, you can tell that person.
Hey, Bob. Bob, I'm going to go out there.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. And he's like...
Ask me, I'll tell you. Who's it right here? Nobody's. Move. The reporter's right there in the corner. Would you mind if I move this down?
It's not mine, so I have no problem.
No, just leave it here. Do me a favor? Talk to the mic, any of them, so we can check audio.
Test 1, 2.
Thank you. Are you guys good? Who's doing it?
Let's go.
Hold on. Excuse me, sir.
No problem.
So I have... Well, I'm going to set this down. Don't bring all the others. Yeah, all of it. Get my email? They have to make me into a outside. Is that bug?
Go get one. Yeah.
Not now. Not yet. Okay.
We
Why? What happened? This works. How are we gonna double all things here? Nothing short. Just gonna try and see if this works. This works enough. Well, I'll format it, but you're not gonna be able to get it. I'll format it as a map. They just have to show. So the new ones have security built in. You're gonna have to have a smaller or something else. No, cellular station. So, yeah, for what? No, everything I would do is what we already have it. Okay, so you might use the last one.
Yeah, but I didn't bring it.
On the way. Time what station? I'm providing you. I have some audio files. Where were the last one? if this will work personally, because if this works,
Excuse me.
I do not.
Is he blocking you? Her, I should say. Should you go bump up against it?
Oh, what happened? I lost it. Yeah, what it doesn't do, it doesn't let you go to the, it just does the opening page and then it goes to the actual item. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
So it says this, now it's on, now it's all this. All right. All right. Breakout downstairs. That's what I'm in here.
Something up west?
Yeah.
Okay. reminder to the media, there's one movie camera and one still camera. Do yourself.
Just gonna yell. She gets the bad first.
One still camera, one movie camera, including cell phone, or you will be asked to leave the court.
Right, Neil.
Okay, any questions? On the cell phone, movie cameras,
Hurry. Get out.
Main team, come to order, question session. All right, ladies, seated.
Okay, we're back on State versus Dippolito, continuation of defendant's motion to dismiss. Clerk, we are ready to proceed.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. We wanted to call Chief Bass to stand in his subpoena. I don't think he's here yet. In the interim, we'll call Stephanie Slater.
Mr. Williams, you were signaling like this. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we're the elevator.
I apologize. Thank you, Chief. Sorry.
He's here?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay. You want me to? I'll swear. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
I may take it.
Do that now.
You can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Chief Cass.
Good afternoon.
You and I have met for the first time today, but we met over the phone. You had your deposition taken, too. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And you're currently the Chief of Police for the Boynton Beach PD?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, back in August 2009, what was your job title?
I was a lieutenant.
Okay, you dealt with the professional standards. You were a professional standards commander?
Yes, sir.
Okay, briefly, what was that?
I was responsible for internal affairs, accreditation, training and recruiting, media relations, development, and grants.
And back in 2009, do you remember an internal affairs investigation involving Sergeant Sheridan?
Faintly, yes.
Oh, who was Sergeant Sheridan?
Sergeant Sheridan was a sergeant. He is now retired. He was a sergeant who worked in our detective bureau.
Well, he was the lead sergeant on the Dalia Dippolito investigation, correct?
I believe he was, sir, yes.
And what was he investigated for?
If I recall correctly, I believe untruthful statements was one of the allegations.
Well, he was investigated for falsifying a police report, isn't that true?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but if you have a record, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Well, do you recall who filed the complaint against Sergeant Sheridan?
I do not.
And you'd agree with me, the internal affairs investigation surrounding Sergeant Paul Sheridan involved false statements he made in the Dalia Dippolito investigation, correct?
I believe that's the case.
And since you were in charge of internal affairs in 2009, wouldn't you agree with me, Chief Katz, that as part of a fair internal affairs investigation, that the investigating officer should interview the person who files the complaint?
As a general rule, that would be the case. I would say, though, that if there are occasions where an internal affairs investigation will proceed without the complainant providing testimony, in such case, the investigator would send a 10-day notice to the complainant, indicating that the investigation would proceed with or without their testimony.
Let me show you a document we'll mark as Exhibit 1. It's entitled Internal Affairs, Your Honor. It's effective date March 1, 2003.
What that relevance in this case?
All right, what's the relevance to the documents?
Well, its relevance goes to the motive of the police department in covering it. Sheridan was investigated for fraud, and there was not a fair investigation of Paul Sheridan to cover up his involvement in the Dippolito investigation.
What is this?
This document, I'll be brief, it sets forth the requirement that certain interviews take place.
Oh, it's a policy?
Yeah, policy, yeah.
All right, I'll roll.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. May I approach?
You may.
Chief Katz, you can take a look at Exhibit 1, and in particular the subsection 4. Just have one question for you on it.
Yes, sir.
Well, what is Exhibit 1?
Exhibit 1 is Index Code 300 entitled Internal Affairs.
Well, it's a directive, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Tell the court what a directive is.
A directive is a guideline for behavior.
Well, it's a policy and procedure of the Boynton Beach Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
And back in August of 2009, if a policy and procedure was generated by the Boynton Beach PD, it would be posted through a computer. Is that right?
I'm not sure when we went to the computer distribution list, but all members of the department would have received and signed for either a hard copy or a computer.
Okay, great. So just to move it along, subsection 4, I believe it's page 300, Exhibit 1. Can you just read that first sentence? Read it out loud.
All investigations will include interviews of the complainant, any known witnesses, and the officers involved.
So it says will, correct?
Yes.
All right. And to your knowledge, do you know whether anybody at Boynton Beach PD was investigating Sergeant Paul Sheridan for fraud? And the Dalia Dippolito investigation took 1 second to interview the person who filed the complaint against him.
I don't know, but that doesn't mean that they didn't.
And you would agree with me that a sergeant committing fraud is a serious allegation, correct?
Just for clarification purposes, I don't believe Sergeant Sheridan was investigated for conformance to law, which would be the appropriate administrative investigation for what you're suggesting would be a crime. Because fraud is a crime in the state of Florida.
Right. You supervised the internal affairs investigation into Sergeant Sheridan lying and falsifying a police report, correct?
I don't recall the nature of the investigation. I believe it had something to do with false statements, but again, if you have a document, I'll be more than glad to look at it and refresh my memory.
Did you ever come to learn what it is that Sergeant Sheridan did to falsify a document in the Dippolito investigation?
I don't know.
Would that be important to you?
It would be important to me in that capacity. 40 administrative investigations per year, and I was in that capacity for about 8 years, so those cases do tend to blend together. But again, I'm willing to look at any documentation you have.
No problem, I appreciate that. Let me move on to mark for Exhibit 2, Your Honor, a document entitled Informants, effective date July 23rd, 2007. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. you take a look at Exhibit 2 briefly, Chief Cass, or as much time as you need. I'm just going to ask you one question about it.
Okay.
So isn't it true, Chief Cass, that Exhibit 2 is a directive that was in place in August of 2009 that dealt with what the policy and procedure is for the Boynton PD and the use of informants?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, great. Now I want to refer you to page 3 of Exhibit 2. Do you see that? Page 3 of Exhibit 2, subsection, or section 5, subsection C, subsection 3. Do you see that at the bottom?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Can you, or isn't it true that this subsection of Exhibit 2 says that an informant will be deactivated when he or she no longer has the potential or the ability to furnish information or services of use to the police officer? Then at a semicolon, when he or she is no longer willing to cooperate with the department. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that was the policy in place at Boynton Beach PD in August of 2009, correct?
Yes, sir.
So wouldn't you agree with me, Chief Katz, as the current chief, back in August of 2009, if there was an informant on an investigation with a detective in Boynton Beach PD, and that informant says to the detective, I don't want to be involved in this investigation anymore, wouldn't you agree with me that that informant should have been deactivated from the investigation?
Given all of the information that you've shared, yes.
Great. So if Mohammed Shihadi walked into this courtroom a few weeks ago and he told this court that he told Detective Marino that he did not want to be involved in this investigation anymore, and Mr. Shihadi's testifying truthfully, wouldn't you agree with me that under the policies and procedures that were in place at Boynton Beach PD in August 2009, that Marino should have removed Shihadi from the investigation?
As you've articulated, everything in the way that you've articulated it, yes.
Thank you. Now, wouldn't you agree, as the current chief of police, that it's very important to monitor and control informants during an undercover investigation?
Yes.
And as part of monitoring and controlling an informant in an undercover investigation, it's imperative, wouldn't you agree, that you preserve the integrity of the investigation?
Yes.
And by doing that, Chief Cass, you would want to make sure that you are recording all audio all conversations between the informant and the suspect, right?
Whenever possible, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Now, I think I had even asked you at your deposition, I asked you a question in this investigation. I asked you to assume at the time of the deposition that Mr. Shihadi, who was the informant in the Dippolito investigation, had 20 to 30 phone calls that were not reported with Ms. Dippolito. You remember me asking you about that?
I do remember you.
And do you recall telling me that that's you'd be critical of that if there were no audio recordings of those conversations? Do you remember that?
If they were controlled calls, absolutely.
All right. Now, may I inquire of the court, Your Honor, Exhibit 1 at the prior hearing were the phone records, or Exhibit 2 were the phone records?
Well, let's clarify a couple of things. This is going to get confusing because this is a continuation of a hearing that already began.
Right.
I think the clerk has already begun the numbering system. And so the two exhibits you put in really shouldn't be Exhibit 1 and 2. They should follow the sequence. So
that's what I thought, yeah.
How many exhibits do we have in the
I'll get the phone records, Your Honor.
All right, well, at least we need to number these correctly. I think 1 and 2 really are not 1 and 2. Numbering, but the answer is you didn't bring that right. You want to send?
That's okay. I can move on without the phone. Just so we're clear for the record then, Exhibit 3 would be the directive dealing with the internal affairs investigation. And then Exhibit 4 would be the 2007 directive pertaining
Assuming
to...
you put in 1 and 2 at the last.
Pardon me?
Assuming you put in 1 and 2 at the last hearing.
Right, we did, yeah, and I'd
I
asked...
know there were at least 2 exhibits.
Yeah, there were, yeah, and Exhibit 1 was a confidential informant packet, Your Honor. Exhibit 2 is the phone records. And I'd like to move into evidence at this time, Exhibits 3 and 4, with the court's permission.
I think you moved 3 in already, and I committed over objection 4. You have objection to 4, Mr. Wayne?
No, Judge.
All right, 4 in evidence without objection.
Great, thank you, Your Honor. Chief Katz, to save time, let me ask you to assume hypothetically that in the Dippolito investigation that there were 560 phone calls made by the informant, Mr. Shahadi, and Dalia Dippolito during a 4-day time period when this investigation was going on, and that none of those phone calls are recorded. You would be critical of that, correct?
I would wonder how 2 people had the time to have so many phone calls in such a short period of time.
Right, but that wasn't my question. You testified in your deposition that you would have had a problem with 20 to 30 phone calls between an informant and a suspect not being recorded, correct?
Yes.
All right, great. So now my question is, there were over 560 phone calls made by Shahadi, the informant, and Ms. Dippolito, and none of those phone calls are recorded. You would be equally, if not more, critical of that of the Boynton Beach PD too, correct?
No, I would have to qualify the answer as far as that's concerned. Were those phone calls made at the direction of the investigating officer, or were they made unilaterally without our knowledge and sanction? In other words, was he acting as an agent of the department, or was he more or less rogue? And with respect to the number of calls that he made, I'm not familiar with any investigation which would require such frequent contact.
All communication between an informant and a suspect must be recorded, Chief Katz, to preserve the integrity of the investigation. Isn't that a true statement?
That is articulated in our guideline, yes.
Okay, great. Now I'd like to read from your deposition, with the court's permission, at page 21, lines 8 through 21.
Judge, I don't object to this.
All right, what are you doing? Impeaching?
Impeaching him, absolutely.
His answer inconsistent. Ms. Williams, what's your objection?
I don't have to see it. I don't even know what he hasn't said anything. Where's the definite? That's not, I doesn't know. He did that.
It's already been lodged with the court, Your Honor. We have
Well, I guess he's giving you the page.
Yeah, I'm giving you the page. Just
Page I want to give a copy of the deposition, Mr. Williams?
No, Judge, I didn't order it.
Well, what are you reading from, Mr. Craig?
This is an excerpt of the deposition. I pulled it out.
I'm not an expert.
Why?
I need to look at the deposition,
Right, we have
whether it's an inconsistent statement.
Yeah, we have the deposition, Your Honor. It's page 21, lines 8 through 21.
Mr. Williams, do you want to see? I've got a copy of it here. Do you want to see?
Sure, Judge.
Page 21, lines what?
8 through 21.
Okay, take a look at this, Mr. Williams. Tell me whether you think he's giving inconsistencies. Is your objection that it's not inconsistent?
It's not. He already said, that's what he already testified to.
Okay, Mr. Craig, how is this inconsistent with what he said?
Because Chief Cass just modified his statement and said that, well, it depends on whether the investigating officer is controlling the informant. That's
He also testified it was the policy, when you read the policy to him.
That's true, you're right.
I don't think it's an inconsistent.
You're right. Yeah, with that comment, Your Honor, I'll move on. Thank you. Chief Cash, you would agree with me that under no circumstances should a detective of the Boynton Beach PD ever coerce or attempt to threaten an informant to remain on an investigation, correct?
I would totally agree with you on that, yes, sir.
So again, if Mr. Shihani walked into this courtroom under oath a few weeks ago and said that he was threatened by Boynton Beach PD to remain on this investigation, you would be critical of that, correct?
I would.
And the reason is because it compromises the integrity of the investigation.
Absolutely.
deposition, we talked a little bit about this encounter between Shihadi, the informant, and Ms. Dippolito at a Chili's restaurant. Do you generally recall that?
Yes, sir.
Right. Wouldn't you agree with me, Chief Cass, that it would have been really, really important to make sure that Mr. Shihadi was wired when he went into the Chili's restaurant to meet Ms. Dippolito on August 3rd, 2005?
That certainly would have been valuable evidence, yes, sir.
And the reason why it would be valuable evidence is why?
It's consistent with a proper protocol for an undercover investigation.
Right, proper protocol for an undercover investigation at Boynton Beach PD back in August 2009 would have required the lead detective on the case to make sure that the suspect is wired before he goes into a meeting with the informant, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the failure of, let's assume hypothetically that the Boynton Beach PD did not have Mr. Shihadi wired when he went into Chili's. You would be critical of that because you lose valuable information that was generated during that discussion, correct?
It certainly would be less than ideal, absolutely.
Right. And it's less than ideal because it, again, compromises the integrity of the investigation, correct?
It certainly could be argued as is right now.
I'm sorry?
It certainly could be argued as it is right now.
Okay. Is that meant to be that it could compromise the integrity of the investigation?
It could bring questions.
Questions into the investigation?
Absolutely.
Right, because you need to know what the informant is discussing with the suspect, correct?
Yes.
For example, if the suspect is saying, I don't think I want to do this anymore, and that's not on an audio recording, that's a problem, right?
Could be, yes.
Now, we have two versions in this case about what happened at the Chili's restaurant. Boynton Beach PD saying that Mr. Shihadi was not wired. Shihadi came in here and testified a few weeks ago and said that he absolutely was certain that he was wired when he went into Chili's restaurant. So now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about that. If, assuming hypothetically Shihadi was wired when he went in to meet Ms. Dippolito in the Chili's restaurant, wouldn't you have expected that the audio recording of that would be preserved by the Boynton Beach PD?
Okay, well, you can be wired, but if there's a malfunction with the device and nothing is recorded, then you wouldn't have anything to preserve. So it is possible, and I'm just trying to answer your question completely, it is possible, and I don't know because I wasn't there nor was I directly involved in the investigation, but it is possible that he was wired, went in, and the recording didn't work, in which case there would be no evidence to submit.
Have you heard of any evidence on the planet in this case that the recording didn't work when Shihadi was in Chili's with Ms. Dippolito?
I don't know any specifics about that. You'd have to refer to the case agents on that.
You haven't heard that from anybody in the Boynton Beach PD, have you?
Nor have I inquired. I don't know.
Well, my question though is, have you heard from anybody in the Boynton Beach?
No, sir.
All right, great. So let's assume the wiring was working properly, that Shihadi was wired when he went in to meet Ms. Dippolito in Chili's. Isn't it policy and procedure of Boynton Beach PD to make sure to maintain and preserve that audio recording?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And the reason why you would maintain and preserve that audio recording is to, again, preserve the integrity of the investigation, correct?
That's correct.
So if that recording was preserved by Boynton Beach PD, you would be critical of anybody within Boynton Beach PD. You would be critical if anybody within Boynton Beach PD destroyed that audio, correct?
Absolutely. That would be a crime.
I don't have any further questions. Thanks for coming out this afternoon, Chief Katz. Appreciate it.
Cross-examination.
I got nothing, Judge.
You may step down.
Thank you, sir.
Likely, you want to call your next witness?
Yes, sure. Thank you. We'll call Stephanie Slater, Your Honor.
Sir.
You just worked dinner.
Ms. Feigl, you have exhibits 3 and 4 you turn over.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sure.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You just take the stand on my right. You may proceed when ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Slater.
Hi.
We haven't met before, have we?
No, we have not.
It's nice to meet you. Back in August 2009, what was your job title at Boynton Beach PD?
Public Information Officer.
Okay, and how long had you been a public information officer?
Since 2007.
And prior to working at Boynton Beach PD, what was your job, your occupation?
I was a reporter at the Palm Beach Post.
Okay, and how long did you do that?
2002 to 2007.
And then tell the court just generally what your job duties were back in August 2009.
Same as my job responsibility now. I am the liaison between the media and the police officers.
Now, at some point in time, you reached out to the TV show Cops.
Yes.
Okay. And when was the first time you reached out to the TV show Cops?
September 2008.
And why did you reach out to the TV show Cops?
We had an interest in having them come and ride with us.
And why were you interested in having them come ride with you?
Because it's great publicity for the police department.
And you wanted to generate positive publicity for the police department, correct?
That is my job, yes.
Yeah, great. Chain of emails. Your Honor, I'd like to mark as Exhibit 5 and approach the witness with the court's permission a litany, an email chain between Ms. Slater and the TV show Cops.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Slater, can you just take a few seconds and look through Exhibit 5 and tell me whether these are emails that you generated or prepared?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, the first email that you sent to Brian Collins at the Cops TV show was September 2nd, 2008,
Yes.
and you indicated you'd be delighted to work with them, correct?
Correct.
And did Brian Collins write you a note back?
Judge, I'm objecting to the relevance of all this.
Okay, what's your practical relevance?
I'll move on, Your Honor. When is the next email that you wrote to the TV show Cops?
Same objection, Judge. This is relevant.
Well, it clearly goes to motive. It's at the heart of the case, Your Honor. The argument is that the Boynton Beach PD was motivated to create a sensational story for the TV show Cops, generate publicity at the expense of discarding Ms. Dippolito's constitutional rights. So
Part of the theory is advanced by the defense under our rules.
When is the next email that you wrote to the TV show Cops?
Your emails are all out of order. I actually brought my own copy for my notes, but it's showing November 18th of 2008 he responded to me, and then, or I reached out to him in November 18th of 2008 as a follow-up. He then responded to me to get back with him after Thanksgiving.
Okay. Do you see a page, at the second page of Exhibit 5, there appears to be an email you wrote to Brian Collins on May 19, 2009. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And you indicated you're thrilled that they were able to come out and ride with you, meaning the police department, correct?
Correct. In early 2009, they did.
So, And then in January, you had also written 2009, correct, to the TV show Cops?
Yes, that was my follow-up with him to see if they would be interested.
So you were pursuing them, correct?
Correct.
And how long PD before they finally did?
The first email was in September of 2008, and we made our arrangements with them officially in, it looks like May of 2009 for them to start August 11th.
But they were initially supposed to start August 11 of 2009?
Correct.
And that date of August 11, 2009 was changed to August 4th, 2009, correct?
It was changed by Cops in July.
My question is, wasn't the date of August 11, 2009 changed to August 4, 2009?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled, she can repeat it.
Yes, the date was changed.
And isn't it true, Ms. Slater, that on August 4th, 2009, Sergeant Sheridan came in and talked to you about wanting to change the schedule for Cops TV so that they could film Dalia Dippolito?
No.
Well, at some point, Cops TV was filming the Dalia Dippolito investigation, correct?
Correct.
All right, when was that? When did they first get involved in filming Dalia Dippolito?
They first filmed her on August 5th.
But didn't you have to meet on August 4th to plan the August 5th staged crime scene?
Yes.
So that's, I asked you a few minutes ago, didn't you meet with or talk to somebody at Cops on the 4th of August, 2009, to discuss filming a staged crime scene on August 5th, 2009?
I don't believe that's what you just asked.
Well, yeah, I apologize. So I'm just restated it for you then. Why don't we do it this way? Tell me what you discussed with Cops on August 4, 2009.
We told them, that to the best of my recollection, we told them about this investigation and what...
I don't mean to interrupt. By this, you mean the Dalia Dippolito investigation?
Correct.
All right, I apologize. Go ahead.
Okay, and what they had planned for the morning of August 5th, and asked if it was something that Cops would be interested in filming.
What did you tell Cops about what you intended on filming?
I don't remember.
It was a staged crime scene, right?
Correct. But exactly what I told the Cops producers in 2009, I do not remember.
You don't remember whether you discussed with Cops how you were going to go ahead and film a staged crime scene?
I was not involved in the staging of the crime scene, so no, I did not.
But it had to be cleared through you, correct?
It was cleared through supervisors. I am not a supervisor.
In fact, it was cleared all the way to former Chief Imler, correct?
Ultimately, Chief Imler is the decision maker. He was the chief, he made the decision.
Right. The former Chief of Police at Boynton Beach PD, his name's George Imler, correct?
George Matthew Imler.
Yeah. It went all the way up to Imler, and he approved the filming of the staged crime scene on August 5th, 2009, correct?
Correct.
So if the former Chief of Police, George Imler, testified under oath in this case that he was not aware that Cops was filming a staged crime scene on August 5th, 2009, he would be lying, correct?
That's an improper question.
Sustained.
Wouldn't you agree with me, Ms. Slater, that on August 4th, 2009, Boynton Beach PD already had probable cause to arrest Dalia Dippolito?
Judge, I'm going to object. It's beyond the scope of her experience. She's a public information officer, not a police officer.
How would this be within the scope of her competence?
Pardon?
How would this be within the scope of her competence? I mean, she's not a law enforcement officer. She's involved in public relations.
I believe she had discussion. May I inquire as to whether she discussed with Sergeant
You
Sheridan?
can find out whether she had discussions, but I don't know that she would be qualified to know at that point in time whether or not the police had probable cause.
Okay, that's fine, Your Honor. I'll move on. Do you recall what the purpose of setting up the staged crime scene was?
The purpose?
Yeah, what was
No.
the purpose behind it? Did you have any involvement in that?
I had no involvement in the staging of that crime scene.
Right, but you were excited about setting up a staged crime scene, correct?
Excited?
Well, you left the stage, you were at the staged crime scene, correct, Ms. Slater?
Part of my job, yes.
Right, you were there, so you were part of it, right?
I was there doing my job, yes.
What were you doing there?
My job was to be on scene and take note of what was going on because we were going to have a press conference later that day.
Well, why were you already?
That day.
So you knew an arrest was going to be made, right?
Yes.
And just to back up a little bit, isn't it true that you sent out an email to everybody within the Boynton Beach PD indicating that the cops was going to be filming at the Boynton Beach PD in August of 2009, correct?
Yes.
So that was no secret, true?
No.
How long were you at the staged crime scene?
I don't remember.
Can you give us an estimate?
An hour?
Were you filming?
Was I filming?
Yeah.
I had a camera, but the battery died, so no, I was not filming.
But somebody else from Boynton Beach PD was filming, right?
Yes.
Who was that?
At the time, it was Sergeant Craig Anthony.
Craig Anthony. And then somebody from cops was filming, right?
Yes.
And when you agree with me that you had a briefing with the cops TV show in which they were supposed to also go film at Mike Dippolito's place. Remember that?
What is your question?
My question is, do you recall discussing with the cops TV show what the agenda was for the morning of August 5th, 2009?
No.
You don't? Do you recall ever discussing with cops about them going over to Mike Dippolito's condominium to film him?
No.
Are you aware of whether cops was filming the staged crime scene?
Yes, cops was filming the staged crime scene.
And at some point after the filming of the staged crime scene, you left the staged crime scene, right?
Yes.
In fact, you left immediately, right?
After it was over, I left, yes.
Right, and you went right over to the Boynton Beach Police Department, didn't you?
To my office, yes.
Well, tell the court what you did right when you got back to the office.
I don't remember exactly what I did.
Well, do you remember posting the video of the staged crime scene?
On YouTube, yes.
Well, now you remember, right?
Well, you asked exactly what I did when I got back.
Well, posting the staged crime scene on YouTube is doing something, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's a big event in your life, right? You would remember that, right?
A big event in my life? No, it's part of my job.
Not a big event. Okay. Right, so why did you go back to the police department and immediately post on YouTube a video of the staged crime scene of Dalia Dippolito?
Well, we posted it as part of our entire plan of publicizing the arrest in this case.
And are you aware of whether Ms. Dippolito had been arrested yet at the time you posted this YouTube video?
No.
You would agree with me that there's still a pending investigation of Ms. Dippolito when you posted the YouTube video, right?
Yes.
I'd like to mark as Exhibit 6, for the record, a effective date is Index Code 2422, title Boynton Beach PD, Release of Information to the Media, dated March 28, 2000. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Ms. Slater, if you could take a moment and review Exhibit 6. Have you seen that before?
Yes.
Okay, what is Exhibit 6?
It is our policy about releasing information to the media.
Right, okay, now I'd like to refer you to page 2 of Exhibit 6. Well, actually, I apologize. Let me start with page 1, subsection. To see the subsection that says information that cannot be released?
Correct.
Right, and it says the following is a guide for those members authorized to release information to the media regarding information that cannot be released, correct? Mm-hmm. Is that yes?
Yes.
Right. So it then lists 17 categories of information that cannot be released, correct?
Correct.
I'd like to refer you to Exhibit 6 and see number 5.
Yes.
And that says any facts that might hinder the investigation of a crime or incident or jeopardize the rights of a person under arrest. You see that?
Yes.
So isn't it true that when you released the YouTube video of the staged crime scene involving Dalia Dippolito, that it contained facts that might hinder the investigation of a crime?
No.
You don't think it did?
No, I do not.
All right. Do you think it was completely appropriate for you to post the staged crime scene on the YouTube?
Yes.
Do you see number 12? On page 2, it says criminal intelligence information. My question to you is, do you think, that's a bad question. Let me back up. I should have laid a foundation better for the court. What specifically was filmed at the staged crime scene?
Well, as the video on YouTube shows, what was filmed was her, Ms. Dippolito, exiting her car and walking to the center of the roadway, being greeted by Sergeant Ramsey, where he spoke with her and informed her of what had occurred. And then she is walked to an unmarked vehicle and driven away.
Well, let's back up. You're aware that Sergeant Frank Ramsey makes a phone call to Ms. Dippolito as she's coming out of the gym, right? You're aware of that?
Well, I'm aware of the phone call, yes.
Right. Okay, that's how it started. And then Ramsey says to Dippolito, hey, come on over to your husband's place, right?
Well, that's not on the video that I posted, no.
All right. So when does the video start? When Ms. Dippolito arrives?
Yes.
All right, and what's she doing in the video?
She is walking.
Okay, then she walks over to Sergeant Ramsey, correct?
That's what I
Okay,
said.
then what do you observe in the video then?
Sergeant Ramsey speaks to her.
And then what does she do?
She cries.
She cries. And then what's next on the video?
She is escorted to an unmarked police vehicle.
And when you posted that on YouTube, it went viral. You know what the word viral means?
Yes, I do.
What's viral mean?
It means that it is seen by everyone using social media. Thousands and thousands of people have seen it.
In fact, it went viral internationally, correct?
Correct.
Within 7 minutes, correct?
I don't know exactly the time.
It went viral in the U.S. within 4 minutes, correct?
I don't know the exact time.
But you agree with me, it went viral both nationally and internationally?
Yes.
Right, great. Now, given what you just told us, don't you think, let me back up. Did you know what Sergeant Ramsey told Ms. Dippolito after which she cried?
Just what I heard on the video.
Well, what did the video say?
Well, I don't remember verbatim. I'd have to listen to it right
What was
now.
the whole purpose of the staged crime scene, Ms. Slater?
The purpose was to inform her that something had occurred and her husband was dead.
Right. Right. The purpose of the staged crime scene was to trap Ms. Dippolito and lie to her and tell her that her husband was dead, correct? Right?
No.
Didn't Sergeant Ramsey tell Ms. Dippolito, your husband's dead?
Yes.
And then she cries, right?
Yes.
Right. And then you post all that on YouTube, correct?
Correct.
Now, given that, you don't think, as you sit here today under oath, that the information in that video contains facts that might hinder a criminal investigation?
No.
Okay. And you don't think that would jeopardize the rights of Ms. Dippolito?
No.
And you don't think that anything contained in this staged crime scene contains any criminal intelligence information? Is that your testimony?
Correct.
All right, great. And let's take a look at number 14 of page 2 of Exhibit 6. It says personal information of the victim of a crime that would identify their residence or place of business. Do you recall their filming of Mike Dippolito at his residence? By cops?
Do I recall? I was not there. So no.
Oh, you don't know whether cops filmed Mike Dippolito right at his residence?
I do not.
Okay, all right, I'll move on then. And then the last one, number 15 of Exhibit 6, page 2, it says, opinions of agency members regarding the guilt or innocence of an accused person or the merits of any case. Do you see that one?
Yes.
All right, now you did a podcast, didn't you, with Sergeant Ramsey after Ms. Dippolito was arrested, right?
Yes.
Okay, tell the court what a podcast is.
We were chatting via online with people who were watching the episode of Cops.
So the people out across the country are watching Cops, and that Cops episode you're referring to involves Ms. Dippolito, right?
Yes.
Right. And then you're having people typing in while you and Sergeant Ramsey are on camera, correct? Asking questions about the Dippolito investigation.
Yes.
And at the time you did the podcast, isn't it true that the first trial involving Ms. Dippolito hadn't even taken place yet?
I don't recall the exact date.
Well, your podcast you did was within a few months after the staged crime scene, correct?
I don't recall the.
Do you recall, as you sit here today, whether the podcast you did took place within 6 months of the staged crime scene?
I do not recall the date.
All right. Now, who told you to do the podcast?
Who told me to do it?
Yeah, that's a bad question. Why did you do the podcast?
The TV show Cops asked if we would be interested in doing a podcast prior to the airing of the episode, and we agreed to do it.
Were you concerned at all that you and Sergeant Ramsey might be giving opinions regarding the guilt or innocence of Ms. Dippolito?
No.
Well, in fact, you did comment in the podcast about whether Ms. Dippolito was guilty, correct?
I don't remember.
I saw the podcast. When's the last time you've seen it?
After it aired?
Okay. Do you recall whether either you or Sergeant Ramsey made any comments on that podcast about Ms. Dippolito being guilty?
No, I don't recall.
You don't recall, okay. Do you recall indicating on the podcast that it was an honor to work with cops?
I don't recall.
Boynton Beach PD currently has a YouTube site?
Yes.
And isn't it true that as we sit here today, before Ms. Dippolito's second trial in May, that podcast that you and Sergeant Ramsey did is still posted on the Boynton Beach PD YouTube, right?
The podcast?
That podcast, that episode of your podcast is still up and running on the Boynton Beach PD's website, correct?
We have several hundred videos on there, so I would have to go back into the log and see if it was still there.
I checked a couple days ago.
Okay.
It's there. Do you have any reason to believe that it's not there?
No, I have no reason to believe it's not there.
And you don't think that the podcast that you and Sergeant Ramsey did in conjunction with the Cops episode of Ms. Dippolito might jeopardize her rights to a fair trial in May of this year?
I don't recall what was said. I'd have to go back and watch it again.
I'd like to, just a couple more questions, we'll be done. Do you have the exhibit in front of you with the emails?
Yes.
I believe it's Exhibit 5 for the record. Do you see the email dated July 14, 2009 that you wrote to Brian Collins?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the purpose of this email?
That I wrote to Brian, it was advising him that an August 4th date was fine with us, and that we have 2 evening shifts, and that their crew was welcome to ride with either one.
Right. And then at some point in time, then, wouldn't you agree with me, this schedule changed, correct?
Well, this schedule actually changed.
Right, this schedule changed because Sergeant Sheridan came in and changed the schedule, correct?
No.
Okay. How is it that this schedule changed then?
Sergeant Sheridan didn't come in and change any schedule. I changed the schedule.
Why'd you change the schedule?
Because we were going to be having this staged crime scene the following morning. So the schedule had to be changed so that the cops crew could film the staged crime scene.
Just one more question.
Mm-hmm.
You approach your own high school?
Yes, it is.
I believe it's the last. Yeah, it's this page. I believe it's the last page of Exhibit 5. Is that an email that you wrote on October 7, 2009?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you read it for us?
Whenever you find out, let us know. The chief wants to have crazy how fast 8 weeks went by. It was awesome having them here.
So Chief, you're referring to Chief Imler, right?
Yes.
Chief Imler was looking forward to a big viewing party for the Cops episode, correct?
This does not say anything about the Dippolito episode. This email does not indicate which episode I was referring to.
But Chief Imler was so excited about filming with cops that he wanted to have a big viewing party at his house, correct?
At his house? No. And that email does not indicate his house.
Right. I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honors. Thank you, Ms. Slater.
Thank you.
I have no question.
Later, you may sit down.
Thank you.
Here, I think I need the, is that the exhibit? Thank you.
You can give the exhibits to the clerk.
Yeah.
All right, transfer the call, next witness.
Hang on a second, I gotta get these exhibits. 5. 6 was the, Your Honor, we'll call Ms. Dippolito.
All right. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You take a witness stand from my right.
Yep.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Dippolito.
Good afternoon.
When did you first meet a gentleman named Mohammed Shahadi? Is that how you pronounce it?
Jihada.
Shahadi. When did you first meet him?
2001, sometime in 2001.
And how did you meet him?
I was actually in the Boca area, and he had a store there, and I walked in, and we just started talking.
Okay, did you ultimately develop a friendship with Mr. Shahadi?
Yes, I did.
At any point in time, did your relationship with Mr. Shahadi become intimate or sexual?
Yes.
And about what year, when did that happen?
Few months maybe after we met.
And at some point, did your sexual relationship with Mr. Shahadi end?
Yes.
Was that before, or when, was that before you married Mike Dippolito?
Uh-huh.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Yeah, you have to respond audibly.
Yes.
For the record, thank you. And when did you first meet Mike Dippolito?
In July of 2008
And how did you meet him?
at Starbucks.
And the two of you dated for a while?
Yes.
And ultimately you married Mike Dippolito?
Yes.
And when did you marry Mike Dippolito?
February 2009.
Okay, when you married Mike Dippolito, were you aware that he was a convicted felon?
No.
When did you first learn that?
I found out after we were married, his probation officer came to our house. Somebody came knocking on the door, and that's when I found out.
And you were surprised?
I was completely surprised. I had no idea he was a convicted felon.
And was there a point in time in which your discussions with Mr. Shahadi kind of rekindled?
Yes.
About what month and year did that happen?
Well, it was a lot more frequently in July.
Of what year?
2009.
Okay, and what was the nature of your increased discussions with Mr. Shahadi back in July 2009?
Who worked together on an acting project.
Okay, and what was the nature of the project?
He had previously been on Burn Notice, and I had some acting experience, and so we were all going to work on an actor's presentation to put up on social media.
Okay, what's Burn Notice?
It's a TV show.
I'd like to show you compilation of phone records previously marked as Exhibit 2. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay, what is Exhibit 2?
Phone records.
Yeah, let Mr. Reed see the exhibit. Is it the same exhibit that was previously admitted evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's fine.
Apologize, Your Honor.
That's fine.
You mean at the prior hearing?
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah,
Exhibit 2.
Yes, I apologize. At the first hearing on the
I
motion.
got it, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, sorry. Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay, what's Exhibit 2?
Phone records.
Whose phone records?
They're my phone records.
Okay, and those phone records reflect phone calls made between who?
Between me and Mohammed.
Mr. Shihadi?
Yes, Mr. Siadi.
All right. And the dates of those phone records are August 1 through August 5, 2009.
Yes.
And is it true you received 681 phone calls from Shahadi during this time?
Yes, that's correct.
And 576 of the 681 phone calls were actual conversations between you and Shahadi
Yes.
during this short window of time, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall whether one of the phone calls you received from Mr. Shahadi was on July 31st, 2009?
Yes, that's correct.
And now, as you sit here today, you've now learned that's the date that Mr. Shahadi called the Boynton Beach Police Department.
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall what Mr. Shahadi discussed with you during the July 31st, 2009 phone call?
That he was going to go into the police department.
Okay, and did he indicate to you why he was going to call the police department?
As part of the project. So, yes.
And at some point in time then, did you eventually meet with Mr. Shahadi and at the mobile gas station?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the purpose of meeting him at the mobile gas station?
The purpose of meeting him was to discuss the presentation and, taping what was going to be on there.
Okay. And at some point in time then, let me back up. During these 568 phone calls, can you generally tell us what Mr. Shahadi was discussing with you?
putting everything together for the presentation.
Okay, what was he talking to you about during, is that the only thing you recall him talking to you about during the 568 phone calls?
No, there were a lot of conversations, but it was talking about the presentation and meeting and putting all of this stuff together.
Okay, at some point in time, did you meet Mr. Shahadi at the Chili's restaurant?
Yes.
What was the point of meeting at Chili's?
I didn't want to go through with actual law enforcement being involved in the project that we were working on. And so Mohammed asked me to meet him at the Chili's so we could talk about everything. He wanted to know why I didn't want to do this anymore.
Did you discuss with him in any of the phone calls that you didn't want to go forward with it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what was his reaction to that?
He got really upset and he was threatening me. He was putting a lot of pressure on me and didn't understand, why we couldn't just go ahead and follow the plan.
Okay, did Mr. Shahadi ever indicate to you why it is that he was upset and wanted you to follow through with it?
He said that he had gone to the police department and now he was getting a lot of pressure from them that they were threatening him and that now we needed to just move forward with everything.
And when you met Mr. Shahadi at the Chili's restaurant, about how long did you have a conversation with him there?
40, 45 minutes, somewhere around there.
Okay, can you tell us what happened in the Chili's restaurant? What was discussed?
Yeah, I told him that I didn't feel comfortable anymore, doing this, and he just got really upset, and he told me, I didn't understand what was going on, I didn't understand what he was going through, and that he was getting pressure, he was feeling threatened, and that now I needed to continue doing everything. And I told him that, I just didn't want to do this anymore. And at that point, he lifted his shirt and showed me his gun, and he threatened.
You afraid?
Yes.
Why were you afraid?
Because he threatened to kill us.
If what?
If I didn't proceed with going and doing the meeting.
So, did you then go and meet with a gentleman named Witty Jean?
With Mohammed. Mohammed actually went with me. He took me across the street to meet with Witty Jean.
Right, so how far away was this gentleman named Witty Jean from where you were at Chili's restaurant?
Right across the street. There's a CVS there.
And why is it that Mohammed Shahadi drove you such a short distance from Chili's to the CVS?
Because I didn't want to go.
But why did he drive you?
I don't think he trusted that I was actually going to go. I didn't want to go.
And when he drove you and dropped you off to meet this gentleman you later learned to be Witty Jean, did Mr. Shahadi just drive off then and leave?
No, he stayed there.
He stayed where?
Right next to us. He was parked right next to us, making sure that I did exactly as he told me to do.
And was there any point in time during your encounter with Witty Jean that Mr. Shahadi got out of his car?
Yes.
Okay, what did he do?
He came out and asked if we needed chips or I don't even know. He was just checking to see, making sure that I was doing what he had told me to do.
Do you recall whether he ever knocked on the window?
Yes, he did.
And after you had this encounter with Mr. Witty Jean, how did you get back to your car?
He drove me back.
And did he ask you any questions when he drove you back?
Yeah, he wanted to know exactly what was said, and he wanted to make sure that I had done everything he had told me to do.
And did you get the sense that he was worried about himself getting in trouble?
Well, that's why he told me that he was acting that way with me, because they were threatening him, and that was his reasoning for threatening me.
And then before you even ever met this gentleman named Witty Gene, did you ever pick up the phone and call him to set up this meeting?
No.
He called you, right?
Right, he was the one calling me.
And in fact, he called you 4 times before you ever met him, right?
Yes.
And what was this gentleman named Witty Gene telling you to do in these phone calls?
To bring pictures, to give him my alarm code, to bring money.
Pictures of who?
Pictures of Mike, pictures
Mike
of...
Dippolito?
Right.
Okay. Did you bring a picture of Mike Dippolito when you met
No.
Witty Gene?
No.
Did you bring a key when you met this gentleman named Witty Gene?
No.
Did you provide Witty Gene the code for your alarm?
No.
And did Witty Gene ever call you after you met with him in the car?
Yes.
He initiated the call,
Yes.
not you.
No.
And did you bring the money that Witty Gene requested when you met him?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever discuss anything with Witty Gene in this encounter in his car about specific plans on how Mike Dippolito would be murdered?
No.
In fact, Witty Gene called you after that meeting so that he could come up with an idea, right?
Right.
Now, on August 5th, 2009, you ended up at the Boynton Beach Police Department. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
All right. Now, when you arrived at the Boynton Beach Police Department on August 5, 2009, did somebody start questioning you? Okay. And how long did Sergeant Sheridan question you?
It felt like I was there a long time.
Okay, where were you questioned? Inside the police department?
Right inside, in an interrogation room.
You were inside an interrogation room?
Yes.
Okay, and did Sergeant Sheridan immediately give you what's called your Miranda rights?
No.
Okay, do you know what Miranda rights are? Now, have you learned?
Now I know what they are.
So, you talked to him for about 40 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, and at what point in time during this questioning did Sergeant Sheridan finally tell you about Miranda rights?
At the end.
At the end of the
Right.
questioning? At some point in time, did Sergeant Sheridan show you a piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay, where were you sitting when he showed you a piece of paper?
In the interrogation room.
Okay, and what did Sergeant Sheridan tell you that piece of paper was?
They were my Miranda rights that I needed to sign.
So Sergeant Sheridan gives you a piece of paper and says, "Oh, here, Mr. Dippolito, this is to acknowledge that I read you the Miranda rights, correct?"
Right.
Okay, and you signed it, right?
And I signed it.
Right. And you later learned it wasn't Miranda rights.
Right. I later found out that he tricked me and it wasn't my Miranda rights.
Right. In fact, he was trying to get you to sign a waiver to appear on the Cops TV show, right?
Right. I later found out it was a waiver, yes.
Right. And you later learned that was torn up, correct?
Yes.
Right. So then after that happened, you were sitting alone in an interrogation room?
Yes.
And what happened next?
And after that, I was taken to a holding cell.
So you went to a holding cell.
Mm-hmm.
How were you feeling mentally at that point?
I wasn't feeling good. I didn't understand, what was going on and what was happening, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was calling for help because I was having a panic attack. I couldn't breathe, and the paramedics came. And they came inside the holding cell with oxygen, and they gave me oxygen there.
after you were given oxygen, what happened then?
Then they left, and a little after that, they came back. An officer came and took me out of the holding cell.
So now you're transported out of the holding cell. Where did you go then?
There's, like to the right side of where the holding cell is, there's the back locker room, and there's a back door that's there. And there was a guy that was there, and...
You know who he was?
No, I had never seen him before.
Did he say who he was?
He said he came to get me help.
To get you legal help?
Right. And he said that he came to get me some help and to get me an attorney, and that I needed to sign something for him to be able to get me help.
And so you signed a document.
Yes.
What did you think you were signing?
I thought I was signing to get an attorney. They took me out of the holding cell, and so I thought that that was, you know, the next step in getting help.
I'm going to show you a document. Madam Clerk, may I inquire as to the last exhibit? 7, okay, I'll mark this as Exhibit 7, Your Honor. Any pressure, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please take a look at Exhibit 7. And was this the document that you signed when you were in the holding cell?
No.
Right. So this is a different document, right?
Yes.
And in fact, in Exhibit 7, it looks like your name's even spelled wrong, correct?
Right, my name is spelled wrong, and
Right.
there's...
Somebody crossed it out and then spelled it correctly, right?
Right.
Right. And you see the description down there?
Yes.
Description says it looks like BFA, black tank top, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you wearing on August 5, 2009?
I was wearing a baby blue tank top.
So you weren't wearing a black tank
No,
top?
this isn't what I was wearing.
Okay. Did you ever, at any point in time, give your consent to appear on a TV show, Cops?
No, I didn't.
Just have a break before we did.
Yes. All right, how long do you request? All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. Simply, you may step down on the break, but do not discuss your testimony.
Okay.
That's 7.